I want to read another quick passage from the Gulag Archipelago. This is a footnote, and so strong. He's talking about being told to tiptoe so that you don't disturb your neighbors. And he says, and how we burned in the camps later thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family? Or if during periods of mass arrests, for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, piling with terror at every bang of the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. After all, you knew ahead of time that those blue caps were out at night for no good purpose, and you could be sure ahead of time that you'd be cracking the skull of a cutthroat. Or what about the Black Maria sitting out there in the street with one lonely chauffeur? What if it had been driven off or its tires spiked? The organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and, notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation. We spent ourselves in one unrestrained outburst in 1917, and then we hurried to submit. We submitted with pleasure. Arthur Ransom describes a workers' meeting in Yaroslav in 1921. Delegates were sent to the workers of the Central Committee in Moscow to confer on the substance of the argument about trade unions. The representative of the opposition, Y. Larin, explained to the workers that their trade union must be their defense against the administration, that they possessed rights which they had won and upon which no one else had any right to infringe. The workers, however, were completely indifferent, simply not comprehending whom they still needed to be defended against and why they still needed any rights. When the spokesman for the party line rebuked them for their laziness and for getting out of hand and demanded sacrifices from them, overtime work without pay, reductions in food, military discipline in the factory administration, this aroused great elation and applause. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. He says they deserved to lose the liberty which they failed to love enough. Failed to love enough? Enough for what? What, Solzhenitsyn? What did they not love freedom enough for? I think it goes back to something that Benjamin Franklin said 250 some odd years ago. We've given you a republic, a democratic republic, if you can hold it, if you can keep it. Do you love it enough?